And welcome everybody to the Bangers and Classics podcast. It's one of the least successful podcasts involving cars on the podcastery verse. And yeah, that's me, James Ruffer, and him, David Malloy. And what have you been up to, David? Or where are we? I think more
Well,
to the point.
we are. I'm very
Mm,
pleased to say in
mm.
1988.
All right.
Much better year than 2000.
Mm,
Much better. But when you say, James, it's one
yeah.
of the least successful motoring podcasts,
Yeah. Apparently.
let's just drop the word motoring
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah. Just yeah. Absolutely.
But there we go. Quite an auspicious year, 1988, for car owners,
Mm.
because it was the year that the main piece of legislation for road traffic in UK, the Road Traffic Act of 1988, came into force.
All right.
It replaced the 1972 Act, and it's still in force today. Obviously changed a bit over the years. It's a very important piece of legislation, James.
Yeah.
If you're driving without insurance, that's what in there. You're under Section 143 to be precise. If you're drunk driving, guess what? It's in there too. Careless driving. It's all there and a whole pile of other things. And if you want to read it, if you're really suffering from insomnia, go to legislation.co.uk or legislation.gov.uk, whatever it's called, and look up Road Traffic Act 1988, and you'll see it there in all its amended glory. I'd avoid it like the plague personally, but that's because I used to have to deal with it. Anyhow, what have we got for this week? Well, we had a bit of a debate over what car should be the banger or classic this week, and we decided that since we're in the future, or we've come from the future, we're going to go for a car that was described on TV in 1988 as a car of the future. It is, of course, the final generation, that is the third generation, Vauxhall Cavalier.
Yeah.
You remember that, James?
I do, absolutely.
And?
Well, there was an advert with Martin Shaw in it, wasn't it? That was the Martin Shaw year.
No.
Was that the previous one, was it?
No, this is the guy who, he's a kid in 1958, and one of the foxes, I'm not sure if it's Edward or James, was presenting a commercial, a program on the television, and he's talking about things you can expect to find in cars of the future, but you won't get them before the 21st century. And then jumps to 1988, and the kid's growing up. There's a building site or something in the background, and there's Vauxhall Cavaliers there, and of course it's got all the kit on it. As ad facts go, though, it wasn't actually bad. It did tell you about the car, and it did it in not unusually, but in quite an inventive way, I suppose, James.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So like, the ad itself gets pass marks.
Yeah.
But what about the car?
Yeah, the car was all right. It's a lot better than the contemporary.
Sierra.
Sierra.
Right. I mean, you don't think it's just a Calibra in a shell suit, do you?
No.
No. He's forgotten the lines, so there's not even any lines to learn. Oh dear.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Am I supposed to say something else? I don't know.
I don't know. Yes, probably. Maybe a good idea.
Yeah.
No,
it's okay. Okay. It was a pretty good car.
We can have a podcast where it's just total silence.
Well, we could do.
We could do. Probably get more listeners, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was the final version, obviously, of the Cavalier, but it was already called the Vectra in Europe. It was the Opel Vectra, but they retained the Cavalier name here, and this version had the V6 engine you could get, a turbo version, and also a 4x4. And then it lasted, I think, till 95, James?
Yeah, I think something like that.
And they brought out the Vectra in 95. And I don't know why they changed the name, really. It was pointless because it was just an evolution. It was the same car occupying the same segment. Why not just call it the new Cavalier? But hey, I'm not a marketing guy, thankfully.
No, that's right.
It was so overwhelming as a car that James can't think of anything to say about it.
No, because I've actually reached for the Vauxhall Drivers book as written by me. Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's written that as well.
I've written many books. So there was lots of stuff in there, and I think actually I've got a still from the advert that you mentioned. The advert I thought Martin Shaw was still in, and obviously he wasn't. It was a. The person just looks like a generic actor to me, the one that they had in it. Yeah, because Martin Shaw's on the opposite page, yes. And on the other page, we do have that glimpse into the future. The car of tomorrow. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, that was the Cavalier campaign. My own words here, yes. The motor car of tomorrow. That's
Yep.
right. Yeah. But I explained. Yeah, all those things you said, which you probably read out from the Vauxhall driver's book, is actually true. But obviously, I can't remember anything. I have to read old books that I
Wow.
read. But
Oh, hang on, James. I'm just
yeah.
phoning my agent.
Oh, are you?
No,
Why is
really,
that?
yeah. I've got to get there's got to be a spot on TV for me.
Yeah.
I just read out of a book that I've never
Yeah.
actually seen.
Well,
Wow.
there you go.
No, maybe it's osmosis or something.
Well, it's a very rare book these days, David. But there's not that many. And yeah, I'm just looking back. That was a marvelous book actually. As I thumb back through it, and there was quite a few. There was that really good actually. I'm still in the '80s. The Astra advert where they did an air display. Obviously, it was like the Red Arrows Astra. I quite
All
enjoyed
right.
that. Yeah, do you remember that
Yeah.
at all?
No, I don't. I
And
remember the ones with Tom Conti and I think it was Nigel Hawthorne.
all right, no, I don't remember
Uh,
those.
yeah, that was. We talked about it before. The sort of pastiche of um, the Fallen Rise of Reginald
Mm,
Perrin. You know,
right,
where Tom Conti has to come up with a name very quickly. He can't tell him his real name, so
yeah,
he looks and he becomes Jock Ramsbottom
all right,
because he sees a ram in the field and it's got its
yeah,
backside to him. So he becomes Jock Ramsbottom. He's obviously Scottish, so he's going to be Jock, isn't he?
yeah,
Well, some would say I wouldn't, but
yeah.
there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and also, David, yeah, Vauxhall, once driven, forever smitten. I don't know if that strapline ever entered your life, but there you go.
Well, no, I remember it mainly because he used music from Layla, the guitar riff from Layla.
Mm.
If you remember that.
No,
And all
I
that, oh
don't.
yeah. Yeah, the guitar riff from Eric Clapton or Derek and the Dominoes, Layla,
Yeah.
was the accompaniment for the ads. In the same way that Johnny and Mary by Robert Palmer was used by Reno.
All right.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm a mine of useless information, James. I really am.
Absolutely.
Trouble is, it's all bleeding useless.
I know. Yeah. So yeah, again, Vauxhall took the lead. I'm reading again, obviously quoting in the saloon class. Low drag design, more room, and advanced suspension are just some of the improvements, and exciting new developments include the 16-valve engine and four-wheel drive. So there you go. Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot to like about the Cavalier.
Right. Did someone pay you to write that?
No, well, I did get paid. Yes, I did. I was paid by Haynes Publishing to write that, which
Okay.
is quite nice. And I
Yeah.
once gave a copy to Vauxhall, but many years later, when I did some other work for Vauxhall, and I think this woman thought I was insane. She looked at this book and thought, we've commissioned him to do this other stuff, and he's written this book, which is clearly mad. And she never spoke to me again. So there you go.
No, she was overwhelmed because she
I,
thought, well, that Cavalier was a pile of poo, wasn't it? And this guy thinks it's brilliant. He, hence the remark that someone paid to say it because it wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. It was okay, actually. It was all right.
they're okay. I don't know. I can't see what your problem is. A builder, a builder
You
in
and
our
many
village.
people.
Well, a builder in our village, and he's quite old now. He's still got one, and he swears by it, obviously. And yeah, it's still in very good nick. So I see one quite often when he takes it out of his garage. So he's very happy with his Cavalier. So there you go.
Right. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think this has gone according to plan, has it, David? At all?
We don't have a plan. We don't have a plan.
Oh, we don't. Oh,
Since
okay.
when have we ever had a plan, James?
I don't know.
You know, if there was one, we'd just lose it or set fire to it or somebody would eat it or something. No, there's no plan. Basically, yeah. So is it a banger or a classic?
Well, it's a sort of a bang classic, isn't it? Really, I would say.
Nah, I'm going to go classic on it. Actually, it wasn't such a bad car. I jest most of the time with these things, but it actually wasn't such a bad car.
No,
and there are very, very few of them left.
there is.
You know, I suppose I didn't like them back in the day because most of them were driven by utter morons. You know, tailgating seemed to be a sort of national sport for these people, but it wasn't the car's fault. They were given to sales reps, and these guys had obviously left their brains in a jar by the side of the bed in the morning. So I'm not going to blame the car for that. The car itself was fine. So yeah, and it had some good features, and the TV ad was actually very good, I thought. So all told, yeah, classic thumbs up from me.
Well done. Yeah, I said it was a bang classic, so there you go. That's my category.
You could say it, but you could say it's a bang on classic. Yeah,
well,
bang on.
No, it's a bang. No, it's a bang classic category. That's a new category I've invented.
Right. Okay.
So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I'm not sure that'll catch on.
No, it won't catch on really, and I don't think anybody will hold a festival in a Bang Classics honour at any point. But there you
You
go.
could start one.
We could try. Yeah, I could start one. It'd be very exclusive. It'd be me and you, David, and that's
I
about
probably
it.
wouldn't turn up. I'd probably do a
No.
George. I'd probably do a George Best.
Mm,
Wouldn't turn up. Definitely not if sober.
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
that was
no change there then. But there you go.
actually those were words written about my uncle on a football program once.
Yeah.
Described him as the team's George Best.
Mm.
Probably won't turn up. Definitely not if sober. I told you the story about the charity match. I'm not going to rehash it. If you want to hear the story, it's in the previous podcast. It involves Davy Jones and the Monkeys, and curiously enough, a guy who wasn't a Vauxhall lad.
Mm.
Actually, I will tell you the story because it did involve a Vauxhall lad. In the early 80s, there was a Vauxhall lad set in your local friendly Vauxhall dealer, whatever, something like that.
Mm.
And there was a manager and various other people. And there was a little guy cleaned the cars called Harry. And he had the misfortune to play in a charity football match along with Davy Jones and the Monkeys against my uncle. And before the game, my uncle went up to the young lad who was in the ad and said, "When I'm finished with you, son, you'll not be cleaning Vauxhalls for a while." And then proceeded to kick him and Davy Jones up and down the football field all afternoon, much to the horror of my grandmother, who was watching. Unfortunately, I missed the match. I would love to have seen it, but it was about 350 miles away, so I think I can be excused that when I was probably university or something, a dodgy university, doing something constructive anyway. Anyway, shall we take a break?
We can do.
I think we should. You're listening to Bangers and Classics, the most dynamic, exciting, and indeed freshest. Wait a minute, who writes this rubbish? Anyway, it's Bangers and Classics and you're listening to it, so good luck. So we're back after the break. Had a few technical problems, but Mr. Muppet's a couple of shillings in the meter, so we should be all right from now on, hopefully. Yeah, and we were talking about films. We'll start again. You were going to tell us all about a film that we both particularly like, and that's Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fine film that was, and Jessica was particularly good in it, and it's a film we all love. But obviously, the one you're talking about, David, is Die Hard. What a fabulous action film that was! What a wonderful advert for vests. But I would commend to the house the very nice Mercedes E-Class turns up in the early part of the film, carrying bad people. And it really did look extremely nice pulling into the Sakatoshi building or something. I can't remember now. And
Nakatomi.
Nakatomi, yeah.
Nakatomi
like
or something like that.
Yakatomi. No, I think you had it right, Nakatomi. And so I like it. I like it for that. But I'm glad it's one of your favourite films as well, David.
The second one is not so much the first one. I almost thought it should have changed the name of the building to the Sockatomi Towers.
Well, exactly.
But that's what happens. He socks it to him.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Mercedes E-Class. That's a bit as well. I'm afraid not for me.
Really? Oh,
No.
Yeah, but you must have enjoyed the fine acting of old Alan Rickman. Was that to your taste at all, or?
Yeah, okay, all right. I don't mind Alan Rickman. Late Alan Rickman, obviously now sadly gone.
Yeah,
it's all right. It just, as a film, it just never appealed to me as much as it did to some others. But I really did quite like the second version. The sequel. So that's all right. Not as good though as They Live.
No, nothing as good as They Live, which is obviously one of the best films ever made, and is basically a documentary of what's been occurring the last few years here. And I also use it as a meme. Strangely enough, it's a meme for Free Car Mag, where if you put some special glasses on, you can actually see the truth about what's going on.
Yeah, filmed by John Carpenter. It's a B movie starring again the late, sadly, Roddy Piper of wrestling fame. I think in his only starring role.
I sneezed there. I held manfully onto that sneeze. It may not sound very manful, but it was. Roddy was great. But as you say, he was a professional wrestler, and so that's where he learned all his acting skills. But
this is true.
He could certainly wrestle, and he could certainly hold a film. I thought he was extremely good as the lead in that. So
he was. I mean, the man had come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and
Yeah.
well, he was all out of bubblegum, wasn't he?
Yeah.
There's also a great video by a band called Defiant the Line. It's a few years old now, maybe 10 years old, for a song called The Fight. And the guy who made the video effectively used a They Live theme for it with updated effects. He did it all himself in a consumer quality camera, which is pretty amazing. I know the camera he did it on, at least, in fact, I used to have one. And I realised then that his talent at such things was way, way, way beyond anything that I had. So I gave up. But yeah, it's a great film to watch, and also check out the video. It really is good. If you like They Live, you'll love what he's done in it. It's very, very good. But anyway, road movies, James.
Yeah.
Well, if you like road movies, you're going to love Midnight Run.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. And I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately. He played Taggart in the first two Beverly Hills Cop films.
Yeah.
He's in it as well. He's a sort of antagonist. Very funny.
Yeah, isn't he called Marvin in it? I think because it's the line is Marvin, look over there, and
yeah, I think it could be. Yeah,
yeah,
I think Joe Spano's in it as well, isn't he?
Could be.
Yeah, as the bail bondsman. Basically, it's a film where Robert De Niro's former cop. He's now a bounty hunter, and he's tracking down an accountant for a crime syndicate who skipped bail before he has to give evidence for them. He knows that if he's going to have to give evidence, he's going to get he's going to get, shall we say, harshly treated by the crime syndicate. It's a very funny film, very good film, and thoroughly commend it. There's also some cars in it too, including one that I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to be. It's a 1986 Mercury Grand Marquis, or Marquis if you prefer, Colony Park. What the heck is that? What in the wide world of sports is that? Well, it's an American station wagon with fake wood on the sides. And as such, yeah, it's pretty good. There's also a 1955 Ford F100, a 1987 Chrysler New Yorker, and a 1973 Chevy Blazer. And there's lots of other period cars strewn through, because obviously it was made in 88, so it's period now, James.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but a very, very good film. Quite possibly the film of the year, I think. And that's in the year when you had the likes of The Accused and Rain Man as well. The Rain Man was a good film. The Accused, it was okay. But They Live and Midnight Run, yeah, the two standouts for me.
Yeah, there was also Tucker, I think, came out that year, didn't it?
Oh, Tucker the Man in His Dream.
Yeah.
Was it not 89?
Was it 89?
It could have been. Well, we'll just talk about it as if it was 88. It was Jeff Bridges who played, was it Preston Tucker?
Yeah, that's right. I think sometimes you find out about, certain films were released in certain areas at 88 and others 89. But no, it's a very interesting film. It's worth a watch.
Yeah, and that's about a guy who tried to set up a major new automobile company in America after World War II. Came up with a car that was advanced in many respects, and unfortunately, fate and perhaps the motor industry to a degree conspired against him. And it never really came to anything. It only made 40 plus cars, I think, in total, which are now hugely valuable. But in retrospect, they are regarded as masterpieces, I think. I think it's fair to say. And of course, it's Jeff Bridges is usually excellent. So, yeah. But whether it's 88 or 89, who cares? Go and watch it. That's my advice. So we've got some music too. We'll run quickly through this, James.
Yeah.
But we have got, if you like talking about moving things, and we've got Travelling Wilburys Volume 1. Yeah, obviously. Supergroup with, who was in the Travelling Wilburys, James?
George Harrison. Yeah, that's right. George Harrison. There was Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. There's
Jeff Lynne.
Jeff Lynne. There's the blonde bloke.
Tom Petty.
Tom Petty is in it, and so they made I actually do have that album.
So do I. Yeah. Sadly, there's only two of those guys left out of the 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With talent such as was involved in that album, you'd expect it to be good, and of course, it is good. It all came about, I think was it Jeff Lynne was doing some work on a George Harrison album.
Yeah.
And George Harrison had left his guitar around at Tom Petty's. And Tom Petty wasn't originally part of the Travelling Wilburys, originally part of the concept. And as you do, it's left the guitar around at Tom's, and he comes back with Tom Petty. He's something that's in the band as well. How did the other half live? But it is a very, very good album. Roy Orbison died, I think, not long after it was released.
Yeah,
It was very tragic, of course. There was an album made by a band led by a chap who went to school in my hometown. Can you guess what the album was, James?
No idea.
It's a band called the Waterboys.
Oh, I've heard of
And
that.
the album, yeah, you would have done the massive hit with The Whole of the Moon. But the finest song is a song called Fisherman's Blues, and it's an album of the same name. And say Mike Scott, the lead, basically who really is the Waterboys, he's the one constant all the way through it, went to Belmont Academy in Ayr. There's a guy I know who used to do some drumming for Mike Scott when he was still at school. Also had, and I think we'll wrap up with this one, is an album by Talk Talk, Spirit of Eden. Talk Talk started out as a sort of 80s synth band and became something rather more. The 86 as a Colour of Spring was a great album, full of wonderful songs, that Life's What You Make It. Spirit of Eden is a harder listen at first, but it's really quite a staggering album by a guy called Mark Hollis, who was the lead singer, and his cohorts. And unfortunately, Mark, again, is no longer with us. He died a relatively young man. But what a legacy he left. It has to be said. Really brilliant. And yeah, so we'll not mention any of the other stuff. I mean, if you're into rap music, I suppose you heard Straight Outta Compton by NWA, which isn't my kind of thing, but those who are into that kind of music say it's a seminal album. I'm not going to disagree with that. It's just never been my thing, so I couldn't really voice an opinion on it. Let's move on, James, and let's do the challenge, shall we?
Oh, is there a challenge?
Yeah, it was a challenge. It was to find the most boring 1988 registered car we could find. Only two criteria. It had to be an MOT and be in the UK.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to be very naughty and say every Porsche 911 registered that year and then classifies automatically as the most boring car of the year. And that was just me. That was just me being naughty.
Yeah.
Because it's not really a boring car. We know that. It's just you get 911 bores everywhere, and it gets a bit wearing at times.
Yeah.
But in all conscience, I can't do it. So I did find one.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a car in the place I used to work, Falkirk. And it's not a bad car. It's quite a nice example, actually. It looks as if it's been well kept. But it was a car that never did much for me. And to that extent, I'm going to call it a boring car. But it's also a very worthy car, the other side of the equation.
Yeah.
It's a 1988 Volvo 340 Auto in red. Very nice interior. Looks to have an MOT. Looks to be in decent nick. It's had some welding, obviously, over the years. From 78,000 miles or so. MOT till November. No service history. The previous owner lost the documents. But it does look pretty clean condition, I have to say. And it will be yours for under £2,000. Advertised in Car and Classic for 50 quid, under £2,000. And I have to say, it's a sort of car, Festival of the Unexceptional. It's a car that's made for it. But there are not many of these cars left on the roads. We all know that. Worthy cars did a job. Hope somebody comes along, saves it and preserves it, and continues to look after it. It seems to be looked after now. Let's hope the next owner does the same. But what have you got?
Well, I've got the winning car, obviously, David. You can laugh if you want, but it's a 1988 on an F, 1 litre Ford Fiesta Popular. And it's the 3-door one. You couldn't get more Billy Basic than that. A fantastic car trade operation here in that they've taken this as a part exchange from some old dear, and immediately thought, oh right, there'll be some idiot who's going to pay a lot of money for this. So it's reasonably scruffy. The paint's a bit faded. It's blue paintwork. Is a bit faded. There's some different steel wheels on it. There's a tiny little crumple on the front offside, but it's 55,000 miles, which is why I say it probably belongs to some old dear. But they've got it up at 2,750, so that seems remarkably optimistic. But I presume if you've got the papers to an XR2i, you'll probably make a decent XR2i out of it. I would say that's the clear winner.
See, 100 quid more. 100 quid more than my Volvo.
Well, I don't care really about the money because it's a car dealer. We can bid him down. Because he's only paid 50 quid for it. If I went and said I want to pay less than David's going to pay for that Volvo, he'd go, yeah, that's no problem. So
yeah, I don't think so. I know car dealers. But we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. Anyway, we'll wrap up with a quick couple of TV programs that were
Oh,
seminal TV programs.
mm.
One of which I think you'll like.
Oh, right.
Other one you damn well should, but you won't.
No,
The first one, obviously, I don't think you'll like this so much because you told me so. Is Red Dwarf.
yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, these weren't. Again, these weren't prime telly watching years for me. I was out doing things, and I wasn't indoors very often. So I actually never ever saw it. I've never seen an entire Red Dwarf. I'm aware of it. I know what it's about. I've seen the people and so forth, but I do not know, love, or adore it in any way. It's not. Like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy from the 70s, which was a bit more my thing.
I don't know. It's
Mm,
the first 6 series I thought were really good,
mm,
and they got better as time passed.
yeah.
I think the writing team changed. I think one of the guys who was behind it, one of the originators of it, left the partnership. I don't think it was ever quite the same again,
Mm,
which is sad. It still had its
yeah.
moments. Don't get me wrong, but the first 6, because I've got the first 8 series on DVD. I've got the
Mm,
box sets because I'm a bit of an idiot that way.
yeah.
Uh, I thought it was great. There was some really interesting and some inventive concepts in it.
Mm,
On the sci-fi humour. It was very funny. They got a great cast. They actually got the perfect cast for it, which is a big thing. And yeah, there's absolutely what's not to like about it, James. It's very, very funny. Certainly brightened up some dark days for me back in the past. So yeah, Red Dwarf will get my vote. There's also a 6-part TV drama shown that year
mm,
called Piece of Cake, based on a novel by Derek Robinson. It's about a Spitfire squadron. The TV series is about a Spitfire squadron in the first year of World War II. Um, the book is, of course, more accurately about Hurricane Squadron because there were no Spitfires fought in the Battle of France. But that's by the by. The TV series isn't a patch on the book, not even remotely close. But if you like looking at old aircraft, lots of Spitfires and a couple of what they call book-ons, which were basically Spanish versions of the Messerschmitt 109, but with Rolls-Royce Merlin engines.
mm,
I mean it. So from that point of view, if you just love, even if you just love seeing all the aircraft, you'll like it from that point of view. You can buy it in DVD as well. I actually do have it in DVD just to watch the aircraft.
mm.
That's it. So yeah, that's 1988. I think we've done it.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do this week, James, we've not
Yeah.
done before. We probably
Right.
should have. My
Mm,
fault that we didn't. I didn't. Is decide whether or not the year itself is a banger or a classic.
mm,
I'm going to vote classic on this one. I think
yeah.
there's enough good things in it. Okay, the new number of new cars and type of new cars that year wasn't terrific, but had enough going for it in every other respect. Films, still some good music, some good TV. To make life interesting, of course, there were lots of great cars still on the road in 1988. So even if you weren't buying a new one, there were some wonderful cars that you could pick up for really not a lot of money. Many of them are all but extinct these days. So yeah, I'm going for classic. What about you, James?
Yeah, I go along with it. It's a classic merely because it's 1988. Anything from the 80s is always a good time for me. Um, but yeah, I thought the music was a tiny bit patchy for that year.
It
I don't.
was. It was.
Yeah,
Well, it was the coming of Stock Aitken and Waterman,
mm,
wasn't it?
you're probably
Uh,
correct there.
that
Yeah.
kind of music.
Mm,
And you got sort of, I suppose, house music was growing in popularity,
mm,
but there was still some good music. I mean, the following year saw,
mm,
in fact, 1988 also saw the release of the Big Dish's second album, Creeping Up in Jesus,
mm,
which is a magnificent album that not enough people bought. Shame on you.
mm.
But also, the following year, you got the first Stone Roses album, which was also very good.
Yeah.
So there was still good new music coming through then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I take your point that some of it was pretty pants, really.
Yeah.
So you're going to spin the dial again on Friday, I believe.
Yeah, I will have a go at that, David. It's a very dangerous operation, but for the sake of the podcast, I'm prepared to do that.
Hmm.
I could catch my finger and cause all sorts of
Well,
damage, but
you should,
it's worth.
if you
Yeah,
didn't, James, both of our listeners would be very upset.
they would be, wouldn't they? Really? But there
Yeah.
you go. I hope people enjoy the sense of drama.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get involved. We're not going to discuss that. Possibly once we stop recording, we'll talk about that. But
Yeah.
anyway, I will simply say thank you very much for listening. Take care and hope you tune in next week.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'm going to go and upvote Die Hard as the best film in the world, the best Christmas film anyway.
I'm going to go and downvote it. So there we
Oh,
go.
okay.
All right. Cheerio, folks.
Cheerio, everybody.